Hi, I'm Summer Tothill, and every week I do a Q&A on my Instagram stories with my followers where I answer questions about gender equality. I compile these here on YouTube in long form so that you don't have to spend your day tapping through Instagram stories. Let's get started with the first question. How can I help my husband understand that he's tone policing most feminist writers? Tone policing. I think it's something that anybody who has ever talked about gendered oppression or really any other kind of oppression will have experienced. What is tone policing? Tone policing is when instead of listening to the message of what you are trying to tell someone, they focus instead on the manner of your delivery, the manner of your saying it. Most commonly, it will be that you are delivering your message in a too angry a manner. This happens all the time with feminists. It's like, men would be willing to listen to gender equality more if feminists weren't so angry and didn't shout so much. It happens a lot to Black women and women of colour that them speaking in an impassioned way about the oppression that they experience makes people who benefit from their oppression basically stop listening and say that they're just being angry. In a patriarchal society, it is pretty much men's default. In fact, I think it's pretty much everyone's default to believe that women don't know what they're talking about, that women are not intelligent, that women are not authorities. There's even research on this if you want to read the book The Authority Gap by Marianne Sieghart, where she was able to identify that an enormous gap exists between the people who we credit with information, the people who we trust, believe, listen to, the people who we don't interrupt when they're speaking, the people who we are more inclined to ascend to like higher positions of authority and promotions. Those are overwhelmingly men. We do not listen to women, and we also, when they do say things that we don't like to hear, we focus instead on the way that they're saying it. But men are coached to distrust, disbelieve, and disregard the things that women say. So even when a man is trying to listen to feminists, he will still have to have his own little take on it. I have even tweeted, sarcastically about this, that women in my DMs are like, "Love you, queen, you've changed my life, everything you say is so wise and powerful." And men in my DMs who are feminists, who are listening to me, will be like, "Listen, I think this is really valuable what you said, but the thing is," they can't just let the point go. So what your husband is doing is common. It's very annoying, but it's pretty much to be expected. And I think that it can change. The first thing you're going to have to do is help him to understand what tone policing is, because it's only once he can see it and understand it that he can see himself doing it. So you're going to have to send him on a little educational journey. The first thing he can just do is Google tone policing. There are so many great things written out there about it. There is, plenty of scholarship. There's a lot by Black women and other women of colour, which I think would be really helpful, because if he can also understand the way that people tone police discussions about race, he can see how he is being complicit in tone policing discussions about gendered oppression. Now, I know some of you are going to say, and I often say, we shouldn't be having to teach men how to treat us as humans. But if you have an otherwise productive relationship with your husband, then I do think it is worth putting time into educating him on something. Men are conditioned to just disagree with women on everything, and it almost becomes a reflex, and you can actually change their behavior by literally just pointing out every single time they disagree with you. And it will be on the smallest things. It'll be like the weather, it'll be where you should put the bowl in the dish rack, it'll be what time that certain TV program comes on, it'll be what time the bus comes. It's like, even if they agree with you, they have to correct you. And there's that funny term, correctile dysfunction. A lot of men have that, and they don't realize they're doing it. So I think the first thing that you need to do is make him aware that tone policing is a behavior that exists, and just show him how he is doing it. If he is genuinely interested in becoming a better feminist, then this information will land okay. It will be challenging for him, but it is important. I wish you the best of luck. Why won't men work on themselves so we would actually want to be with them? Men won't work on themselves until there are actual serious and lasting consequences to them not working on themselves. Men who don't want to help us and who don't want to change aren't oblivious to what's going on. They don't want to change because they benefit from the way things are now. So for men to actually change, we have to make the consequences feel very uncomfortable for them when they don't change. That is why we decenter men. We stop prioritizing them and their desires and their plans and their feelings. We stop putting up with their crap when we're dating them, and we dump them early and dump them often. We set up very strong boundaries. We call attention to their bad behavior. We stop trying to dye their red flags different colors or put on glasses to see them differently. We stop doing the hermeneutic labor of trying to understand and explain them in ways that humanize them when they don't actually do any work to humanize and stop objectifying us. In short, we remove men's access to the things that they want from us until they change. When to get divorced. How to break free from till death do us part. It is easier to break free from the shame around breaking the vow of till death do us part when you understand that the vows that comprise modern marriage were invented in a very not modern time, a very long time ago, when the circumstances of society were quite different than they are now. I mean, even just the fact that people didn't live as long as they do now, and so till death do us part could constitute 10 years. It's important to remember that the entire point of Western Christian marriage was to secure the transfer of property and assets between families, or the retention of properties and assets between families, and that historically, under the laws of coverture in Britain, women were literally the property of men. You were supposed to promise till death do us part for financial and economical reasons. You were supposed to promise till death do us part so that you couldn't leave a man and you would be in servitude to him, providing him with children, providing him with domestic labor, providing him with sons who would take on his name and continue the retention of his assets. For his part, he was supposed to promise you till death do us part because he was meant to be the only person who could financially provide for you. And so if a man left his wife, historically, that would pretty much leave her destitute. That is not the circumstance under which you got married. Modern marriage is barely necessary. It's a pretty old-fashioned institution. Sometimes you can get married for legal and financial benefits that you need, but from a romantic and spiritual and social perspective, it's really not that important. And on that note, it is not that important to stay in a marriage. Many people get divorced, and almost everyone who gets divorced is better off. Almost every woman who gets divorced is better off. As to when is the right time to divorce, the right time to divorce is once you start wanting to divorce and when you can financially handle it. If you can safely get out, if you can safely support yourself to leave that relationship, that is the time to divorce. I also think it can be dangerous to stay in a relationship just because you financially can't afford to. If you need to start securing your own safety, if that is an issue, now is the time to do it. It is okay to be done with a romantic relationship, even if you promised forever, because I don't personally believe that we have any business promising forever to anyone. We don't know what forever is going to be like. We don't know how things are going to change in the future. I mean, I don't even trust the dreams that were thought up by a 19-year-old version of me. She didn't know anything, and she didn't know what would be right for me at my current age of nearly 40. Similarly, you didn't know when you got married that it was going to turn out this way, and that version of you had no business promising forever. So as far as I'm concerned, you can release yourself from that contract, and if it is safe and possible for you to do so, initiate that divorce. That's it for this Q&A. Thank you so much for listening. Find me on Instagram at summertothill. That's summer with an O, spelt the same way as you see in this YouTube channel. I can't wait to see you there.